Welcome back to the Very Online Show, where two extremely online, increasingly tired people, that's me and Lucy, explain to one reasonably online person what the hell is going on. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. I don't want to skip the fact that I am also tired.
I was going to say, we're all tired.
Everyone's tired.
It's 2022.
Yes.
And
it's enough
get out my
already.
brain.
We
Hussein.
started tired.
Yeah.
Hussein in the membrane is what they say. Depending on your perspective, this is either one man's quest to rot his brain in the pursuit of being cool, hip, and with it.
Worth it.
Or it's two people's desperate attempt to convince themselves they're not suffering from internet-induced brain rot and that all that online knowledge can be harnessed for some good, namely helping Jeff, and by extension you, the viewer, a little more internet savvy.
Yep.
Jeff Bacala. Jeffels Bacala, as I've written down in this script.
Ooh,
He has. Jeffels.
Yeah. As a user of Twitter, do you know what the goal of Twitter is? And in my script, I've written here, Jeffels answers. What is the goal of Twitter?
The goal?
Yeah.
So are you asking what do I believe to be the original inception and reason for creation?
If Twitter, if you were the main character of this RPG known as Life, and Twitter appeared as a quest, what would the quest description be?
What's the golden rule of Twitter?
What is the golden rule of Twitter?
Well, first I want to answer the original question, and I used to say this, I don't know how much I believe it anymore, but I used to think that Twitter was like Earth's stenographer, and that it was basically just sort of that, like a way to kind of keep track of it all, and in a lot of ways it still is that, and in a lot of ways it is also not that.
But what is the golden rule of Twitter?
The golden rule of Twitter? Oh, geez. My personal one? I don't know. It's the thing I'm most active on by far. I pay close to zero attention to any other platform. And I'm not even super active on Twitter. Maybe like a 3 tweets a week person.
Cool, yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it is, what it has devolved into for me is just like a connection, sort of like, maybe the origin of it. Maybe it is a social network. Maybe it is a way to stay in touch. I don't know. Also to remind, everyone that I have not died yet. So
Good. Remembering Jeffels.
Remembering Jeffels is still alive and active. Lucy, what is your golden rule for Twitter? You know my one.
I know yours.
What's yours?
Tam's is, I want it tattooed on me.
Yeah. Lucy, you can tell the world about my one.
Tam put this rule in place for himself, and it's something that I hold myself to every day. You'll notice that on Twitter, I am not very confrontational, very rarely given to snark because of Tam's rule, which is see the drama, don't be the drama.
Sure.
Which is perfect. It's like... You still get the schadenfreude of looking in and seeing, you're going through the subtweets and whatever.
Yeah,
but
the rubberneck all you want.
But you don't have to deal with getting dogpiled and publicly shamed.
You can be the drampire,
which is what we are. What we collectively call ourselves.
But you never make yourself the food, That's why it is. See the drama, don't be the drama. However, there is a golden rule that is generally believed to be kind of accepted, and it comes from Twitter user Maple Cocaine, who laid out...
Oh, yeah. I know Maple Cocaine, sure.
Who laid out the golden rule back in 2019, and they are truly words to live by. This is a North Star to keep an eye on whenever you log on to see what all the deranged little blue birds are chirping about. And we're going to look at it here. Jeff, you're free to look at the screen.
Okay.
Maple Cocaine says, each day on Twitter, there is one main character. The goal is to never be it.
Oh, put that in a museum.
That is the golden rule of Twitter. Of course, a lot of people aspire to be the main character for on Twitter because from a positive perspective, it can be beneficial, right? Like, you get a lot of like social buzz, and you know, you could launch a career off of it. But I'd say like that main character is the protagonist. What Maple Cocaine is talking about is the other side of that, where you become the antagonist on Twitter for the day, which is very easy to do and can be absolutely devastating. And I think when Maple Cocaine says the goal is to not become the main character, I think what they are talking about is the main antagonist of Twitter. So
yeah,
recently we got our masterclass in the quickest way to become the main character antagonist of Twitter and have legions of people turn on you to the point where a multi-billion-dollar company has to get involved.
Oh my God.
See, so this one is already like very interesting because it's someone who came out of the gate to be a villain, where usually the way that this goes is like someone coming out and blowing up for like a good reason and then getting milkshake ducked.
Yeah, it's me, Jensen Karp. I found some shells in my cereal.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, hey, the guy found shells in the cereals. Uh-oh, guy's done some awful shit and there's a wrong end. Like, that's how it usually goes. But in this case, a man rolled up, did something obviously shitty, and then, as they say on the internet, showed his whole ass. And it's all got to do with a little game called Wordle.
Oh, fuck. What?
This is why. So the other day after this happened, I tweeted out that GDQ is now the only pure thing on the internet. Because even Wordle has now been tainted by a scandal. And it's only really been going for like 6 weeks.
Am I about to find out something the creator of Wordle did?
Nah, it's
he's
not
still
that.
pure.
You were
he's
about
still
to say,
pure.
no, you're fine.
Nah, you're fine. You're fine.
He's still pure.
Oh, okay.
John Wardle.
All right.
So, on this episode of the Very Online Show, we're going to be taking a look at the Great Wordle Heist. And by extension, the Wild West that is the App Store.
Okay. Line it up. Let's do it.
So, Jeffington, what do you know about Wordle and how do you feel about Wordle?
Everyone get their averages up. Get their averages up. Come on.
My phone's in the other room.
Oh, convenient. Convenient.
I'm great at Wordle. I got no issues, dude.
Can I brag a little bit?
Yeah, go on.
It's not that much of a brag.
I've completed
but it's like,
it.
I finished Wordle.
Yeah, I saw credits on Wordle. I've been playing it for 14 days and I'm 14 for 14.
Oh.
And it's not, I mean, we talked a lot about this on a recent Bombcast. Like, I think that game is easier than people think.
There he comes.
Which is a whole other like psychology of Wordle.
Mr. English.
My whole ass. No, but like,
but you like it though, right?
I like it. But people need to also understand like it's not terribly unique, and it is basically mastermind for words.
Well, you might share something with the subject of our topic today. What do you know?
But I didn't do anything.
What do you know about?
Don't cancel me.
What do you know about a man named Zach Shacked? Shacked. We're gonna say Shacked for this.
I don't know anything about this person at all.
This is the second Zach to be featured in the Very Online Show, which raises a lot of questions for people named Zach.
Makes you think.
See a pattern here.
Makes you think.
Makes you think.
Well, Jeff, Zach became the main character of Twitter for a few days. First, some context. For people who don't know what Wordle is a brilliant, simple word game that was designed and developed by I'm going to get an article up where some of this it was taken from. New York Times, Wordle is a love story. That's a great article written by Daniel Victor, where you can get some history on it. But designed by a software engineer named Josh Wardle. His partner loved word games, so he put together this little thing that they could play together. That's basically a guessing game. Its name, Wordle, is a play on his surname, Wardle. 10 out of 10 wordplay. Well done, Josh.
Good job.
So they shared it with a few friends and family, and it became an obsession for them. Then he put it out for free and made it so the world could Wordle. As noted in the excellent New York Times article that we mentioned earlier on the game, on November 1st, 2021, 90 people played Wordle. 2 months later, that number was up to 300,000 people. Wardle and his partner, Palak Shah, made this thing to basically kill time during the pandemic and give themselves something enjoyable to do. And by extension, give the world something nice eventually. It was never designed to be a big deal, and you can tell because it doesn't really have anything in there to keep making you come back. In the traditional, we've created a blockbuster, smash hit, viral mobile app.
There are no dark patterns in Wordle.
There's very few dark patterns in Wordle. If you're wondering what we're talking about with dark patterns, watch the last episode of the Very Online Show, all about dark patterns. So there's nothing like push notifications or anything like that. Even the little solution thing that you can share, the squares, colored squares that pop up everywhere on Twitter now, doesn't have a link back to the game itself. And that was basically intentional because Waddle and their partner were like, we don't want it to look trashy. We don't want it to be, we want it to be visually compelling, and the link doesn't do that. So it's basically a wholesome top to bottom. It's a nice thing that people have done and put on the internet. And as with all nice things that people have done and put on the internet, someone's got to come and spoil the fun. And in this case, it was Zach, an entrepreneur on January 10th tweeted about his new app. Lucy, can you read the tweet, please?
I love Wordle so much, I decided to make my own Wordle app, but with a twist. There's not just 5-letter words, but also 4, 6, and 7-letter words too. You can also play unlimited times if you're on the pro version.
There is a really upsetting amount of the the lack of awareness here.
Oh, just you fucking wait about lack of awareness.
What I don't understand is if you have the wherewithal to make an app, but like you're gonna call it the same exact thing. Like what is going on?
So
I'm sorry.
So the thing that towards the end there is like you can play unlimited time. Wordle gives you 1 word per day. And that was by design. Waddle and their partner were like, we don't want it to become an obsession. We just want to give you something fun and to kind of, flex your brain just for a little bit a day and then you come back. That wasn't the case for Zach's Wordle app. And then on January 11th, a day later, he posted an update on Twitter. Lucy, can you read the update?
This is absurd. 450 trials at 1 a.m. last night, now at 950 and getting a new ones every minute. 12k downloads, rank 28 word game, and number 4 result for Wordle in the App Store. We're going to the fucking moon.
This is like self-reporting, and live tweeting. Yeah. I stole all these credit cards and they're working everywhere. Best Buy, Target.
Yeah. As a kind of rule of thumb from me personally, anyone who tweets "we are going to the fucking moon" or the phrase "fucking moon" is a prick. Like, I don't care what. Like, this is a stance.
But that tells you everything you need to know.
That tells you everything. Anyone who tweets "we are going to the moon," not ironically, is a prick.
What would you have done if Neil Armstrong had tweeted that?
I mean,
Neil Armstrong would have meant it. Yeah, for real.
The only people that can do that are people who are like astronauts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in swoops Zach, and he creates an app version of Wordle, which is already pretty fucked up. But even more fucked up is the pro version, which gives unlimited plays for a $30 subscription. Naturally, people let Zach know that it was a pretty shitty thing to do. And he acknowledged this, but at the same time, did it in the shittiest way possible. Basically, he was like, sorry, lads, but yeah, I did it because I thought it would be something cool to do on a weekend. And yeah, I monetized it because it's business, baby, finger guns. So he goes, Wordle is a ripoff of something else and whatever, man, just basically leave me alone. So we're going to go through his thread real quick. And we're going to look at some of the highlights of young Zach's tirade.
Before we get into this, right, like, I think it's also relevant to point out that, like, this was absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So Zach's threads were, here are my calculations. Wordle is a ripoff of another game. Wordle, the word, isn't trademarked, and there is a bunch of unrelated word apps named the same thing. Wow, I'll hack together something on a weekend and see if I can make a quick buck. I use similar UI because I made the app in a weekend. I was already...
Sorry, that's 7 letters.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was already working on an update with different UI. Twitter can be a hellscape sometimes, and you all need to calm down because it happens 1,000 times a week on other apps. So he basically said, I just nicked it because it was easier, and you all need to calm down. This was the perfect storm to publicly crucify me for something that is common. In a week, my app would have looked totally different and had way more functionality beyond what the original dude did. Woe is me. I would have been better. I realized I crossed the line and surely will never do anything remotely close to this again. I fucked up. And then he follows that up with, getting mad that I charged $30 subscription that thousands of people were willing to pay is just bananas. This is how business works. You charge money. If it's too much, people won't pay. In this case, many people were willing to start a trial. I put subscriptions in every app I do. That's how you make money on the App Store. It was optional. It wasn't $9.99 a week, and nearly 50K plus people happily didn't pay. I haven't implemented a non-subscription in an app purchase in literally 5 years. So he's saying if you're on the App Store, you have to put in a subscription. If I launched with multiplayer where you could play in real time against other people and friends, would you all be as mad? This was a weekend side project that I built. So his defense is, I did this in a weekend. It's really cool. It's really cool. Why are you attacking me? Stop booing me. And then he was really excited about the downloads. So he posted his stats being like, whoa, this is really killing it. I'm doing great here. Anyone who follows me knows I like putting out metrics, blah, blah, blah. When you've been making apps since high school, you launch something that overnight is hitting this way, you get excited. Apps have been, my life, etc., etc. And then he was getting harassed, emails, people trying to reset my Twitter account. And today I saw who my friends are. So, okay. And then he tries to deflect, which is like, how do you feel about Apple unilaterally removing apps without recourse, etc., etc. And then it ends with, made me think there was an opportunity. I was wrong. There wasn't. I'll go back to creating apps based on my completely evergreen original ideas and never fuck with anything remotely like this again. So he kind of apologize, but not apologize. Sorry, not sorry. He said basically, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
So one of the things that
I was gonna say, like, I don't agree with like Twitter dogpiling or whatever. It's like such a awful side effect of the internet. It's like, and yeah, he did put, some of his DMs, and I'm not defending him in for what he did here, but it's like the reaction is always going to be overblown by the pure nature of the fact that it's online and people felt this like ownership of Wordle or like pleasant feelings towards Wordle, and they see this guy swooping in trying to make it a quick buck, like he says. But also, if you have the wherewithal to recognize what this trend is and what it means to people and how people are typically people are very unwilling to share things from like mobile games and whatever, especially when it doesn't really get them anything. Like, Farmville, people used to share shit because you used to get stuff quicker. But in Wordle, you're just sharing like a sense of pride and accomplishment. So for him to like be on the internet and be, at least in some regard, internet literate, and then have that as his apology is a very weird, just complete lack of self-awareness. So
the takeaway from this is, and it's something that is kind of like important to recognize, is this kind of behavior is a strategy. And that's effectively what he's saying. He's saying this is how it works. This is how you make money on the internet. And this is how you make money with apps. And one of the things that people kept pointing out was like there was no trademark. So someone tweeted at him and said, are you worried about the trademark for Wordle? I remember when #export got some copycats and similar names, but I don't remember how that ended up. And he replied, what trademark? The awkward thing is like, and then also there was someone who replied when he was like talking about how good it was doing, are you going to dedicate any equity to the persons who created the game? And he said, yeah, huge shout out to the TV show Lingo for thinking of these game mechanics, which is a shitty thing to do because like you clearly didn't take it from Lingo, you took it from Wordle. And like I would be surprised if you watched Lingo before
Lingo's isn't that like a British TV show? Because I saw the guy who hosts it was like tweeting about stuff from it. Hang on.
No, I don't know. But following that backlash, Apple actually purged it. The App Store of Wordle Clones. It's reported widely, but I was using Apple Insider kind of for my research on this stuff. Admittedly, Zach wasn't the only person to clone the apps. He just, not unfortunately, but like he became the main character of Twitter with his attempt because he was out there showing his ass. So good that it was purged, but also begs the question, why the hell did it even get there in the first place to the App Store? And would Apple have really cared if this wasn't a community darling game and had such a groundswell of support for it and against Zach's behavior? So for why did it get published? Well, I think a lot of that has to do with Zach kind of being right.
He was technically correct.
Yeah, he's technically correct, which is the worst kind of correct.
Right. And that's the thing, like, and people are mad. They're not mad that he's correct.
They're mad that he's being a dickhead about it.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
So Wardell, the original creator, one of the original creators of the original game, didn't copyright the name Wordle or the mechanics. He just put it out there because he and his partners are good eggs. They were just like, have fun. But also, Apple has a pretty shitty history with clones and other opportunistic apps that basically nick concepts. At this point, we're probably all familiar with Flappy Bird and Threes, which were particularly hit by clones. Like when Flappy Bird came out, there were so many clones.
Oh my God.
It was unbearable. The App Store was flooded with them. And then Threes had that clone, was it 2042? Or 2041, Blade Runner 2040,
something like that. 2048, yeah.
Google has similar issues, and like this link found by Lucy, posted on Twitter by Ren Breyer, apologies for mispronunciation, is a perfect example of how it still happens. Unpacking gains a lot of decent amount of traction, and within, who knows, not a lot of time, the unpacking clones are everywhere. So it is something that is common on Google Store and Apple's, but like Apple is particularly egregious with it. So let's go back to this article from Eurogamer, 2014. And there was a developer that kind of was speaking about this. And Lucy, can you read the quote that's attached to it?
There's the usual stuff in the T's and C's about owning the content you're uploading, but that just covers overtly ripped off assets, graphics, music, etc., not the functionality of the app or the gameplay. So technically, clones would be exempt.
Yeah, so that's going 2014, talking about the Apple App Store kind of rules. So naturally, that is going to be a problem for Wordle since it didn't exist on the App Store. So the clones look like original products. It's something taken from outside of the App Store and brought in. And that's how a lot of this happens. It's like unpacking doesn't exist on the App Store right now anyway. So from Apple's eyes, is original, which is a gray area. Since then, Apple has improved its policy somewhat, but it's still very, very vague. The Apple guidelines currently have a section dedicated to copycats. Lucy, can you read what that says, please?
Sorry. Come up with your own ideas. We know you have them, so make yours come to life. Why do they sound like Disney Imagineers or something? Don't simply copy the latest popular app on the App Store or make some minor changes to another app's name or UI and pass it off as your own. In addition to risking an intellectual property infringement claim, it makes the App Store harder to navigate and just isn't fair to your fellow developers.
Oh, wow. What a threat. What a really, really bad... come on.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump ahead because maybe you'll get to this, but... at the same time, obviously there's probably more Apple could do to get in front of this. But at the same time, that is inherently when you think about it, this impossible task, right? Unless there's no way they could do it, through any kind of human effort, right? It would have to be, they would have to build AI to do this and take care of it.
But that's the thing though, because Apple, to at least get a podcast.
Yeah, Apple markets themselves, or has said in the past that they have humans looking at this stuff, which is kind of are you sure? Are you really?
Yeah, because that doesn't make sense. Yeah. I mean, but even there, like, how can you have humans do that?
Yeah.
Like, that's assuming a human has the ability, unless they just can, I don't know. It just seems like a very difficult thing to police.
Yeah. Lucy, you were going to say about podcasts?
I was going to say about like podcasts. It takes them sometimes up to a week to approve a new podcast feed, and you have to give them 2, so they know that it's like an actual thing.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the rates are of people submitting things to the App Store. It is likely way more than podcasts.
Yeah. So what complicates matters further, as mentioned in this article by Protocol, which is great, which is titled, "There are scores of Wordle clones on iOS," because of course they are. Look how dejected that sounds. So they mentioned there, Nick Stratt, the author, I believe, mentions that there's a kind of truce in the games industry around ideas to a degree, especially when it comes to mechanics. And quote, "Games wouldn't be very fun if you had to pay a licensing fee or risk a lawsuit every time you wanted to borrow a good idea. So most developers just treat copying and cloning as the cost of doing business." So there's a degree of truth to that. Imagine, for example, if that was extrapolated out broadly, entire genres wouldn't exist. Like you would not have the Souls-like genre, for example, because no one would be able to take anything that From Software has done and iterate on it. So to a degree, there's kind of like a ceasefire on aggressively pursuing lawsuits against borrowed ideas. And iteration is kind of the way of the world in the games industry. And similarly, like, imagine the kind of games, the amount of games that wouldn't exist on iOS if like the idea of Peggle was strictly only PopCaps. So because of that, copyrights are pretty hard to get for this kind of stuff. But regardless, Apple's review policy is still clearly not working as it should. And in March of 2021, there was a developer called Costa Eleftheru, I'm going to go with.
Okay.
Eleftheru?
We're going to call this person Costa because they have an amazing surname that I'm struggling to pronounce. But they developed an app called FlickType, which is like an intelligent keyboard thing. And they went after Apple for fraud, abuse of monopoly of power, and the enablement of rampant scam apps.
Okay.
Costa was pretty thorough about the claims, which basically came about because people were nicking their ideas for their app and then promoting their fakes using screenshots and videos from Costa's app.
What?
And when people were downloading the clones, what was happening was the fakes were asking for money up front. And then when they were paying it and given access to the app, they would find the app is completely busted. And basically, Costa said that people were being taken to the scam apps, also using false advertising in the App Store, and where they were being scammed once they kind of got on board. They also alleged that Apple doesn't really care to do anything about this because regardless of the situation, they get a cut from revenue. The way they're doing this is through fake reviews also. So like they're using the fake review system to 5-star it and game it. So it was basically pushing people to this fake version of Costa's app. The interesting wrinkle is Costa also said that Apple tried to acquire FlickType. And then after negotiations stopped, their app started being denied from the App Store.
Oh my God.
And the argument is that Apple wanted to stop them from competing while they profited from the scam apps, and said Apple's monopoly position means that it can control the market and basically treat developers that they don't like poorly if they choose. So unclear whether this is true. This is the allegations from them. We're not saying this is exactly what happened, but this is what Costa is alleging in the lawsuit. And if you're wondering why that sounds familiar, it's because Epic Games said very similar in its lawsuit around Fortnite and Apple Games. So Costa's lawsuit is ongoing. But in the meantime, Costa also discovered an app called String VP that charges $10 a week, has fake reviews, get surfaced because they're all 5-star fake reviews, and is advertised as recommended by Apple itself.
Oh no.
And it's a VPN app that doesn't work, but it has grossed $1 million in a month And I think it's done that
Jesus.
multiple months.
That is bananas.
Yeah. So the fact that it's on there and is using Apple's inbuilt curation system and promotion system to scam people really says a lot about the issues with the App Store. Again, Apple says,
we review all apps and app updates submitted to the App Store in an effort to determine whether they are reliable, perform as expected, respect user privacy, and are free of objectionable content.
so I think we've...
Except we don't.
Yeah, we've learned thoroughly that it's not working.
Yeah.
So basically the moral of this story with Zach and Wordle is Apple on iOS presents you with a closed ecosystem in the App Store. And it often gets its hooks into your personal information that includes like where you live,
Sure.
your payment information, personal details such as your health, your daily activities, which various very nice looking, shiny, convenient apps are gathering data on. And then those connect to a variety of different services. And the important thing is it tells you that this closed ecosystem is safe and you should use it with confidence. But actually, it's not really that safe because people are getting scammed and people are getting, like their systems are being perverted to push people towards these scams. And we're not trying to draw a connection between your personal information and like what are happening with fake app stores, but at least when it comes to apps, clones and scams are like super prevalent, and we can see how easy it is for those to like make it past checks and balances as well as safeguards. Sure. So the App Store is important to remember, and this is the takeaway, is still the internet. So you got to be like super careful when using it, especially when you're giving that access to young people. I think the important thing is like, I think there's a distinction that happens in the minds of people where they don't treat the App Store in the same way that they treat the internet by and large, where you kind of let your guard down. And I think that is something important to remind people that they shouldn't be doing.
Because that attitude is the thing that's advertised. Yeah. Right. Like Apple's number one thing that they go first and foremost is security. Like that personal, like that is the thing. It's not, but it exists beyond just your private information. It exists on providing you with a safe experience as well. So. Totally. People, once they're in that app store, they're like, this is a Best Buy, I'm safe.
Yeah, it's not. You're not. You're basically using Kazaa. You're basically using LimeWire. It looks nice and it's got Apple's logo all over it, but it's the same thing. There's a lot of like heinous shit on there. So be careful with that. And when you can, try and make sure the app that you're downloading doesn't come from a shady spot. Don't just trust Apple's reviews and rating system. And definitely don't trust the app's own advertising. So we'll end this on an old tweet from Zach, the Wordle thief.
This is before Wordle?
This is before it happened.
June 21st, 2021. I absolutely despise copycats. Shameless copying is so dumb. Take inspiration from others. Why are they doing that? Why is this a good feature for users? How can we build on top of that? Shameless copy-pasting ideas and features. Did you hear my stomach there?
Yeah.
You did?
Can you blame it? Can you blame it? Can you blame your stomach?
Oh, absolutely dumb me there. Shameless copy-pasting ideas and features will get you nowhere.
Zero self-awareness from Zach there. But yeah, no irony.
What the fuck, Zach?
There you have it.
What the fuck with Zach's?
Yeah, what's going
just
on with
in
Zach's?
general?
What is up with Zach's?
There's a pattern developing. We're noticing a pattern with Zach's.
Saying nothing.
There you have it. So this was a short
but sweet,
relatively simple by usual standards. Just a reminder that the App Store is not your friend. Apple is not your friend. They are still out to make money, and sometimes you will get screwed along the way. So be careful. Jeff, how you feeling?
I feel good. I what I thought was going to be more of like a Wordle specific thing had me like thinking in one direction, but I'm very happy to see that we were able to tell people what the App Store really truly is. Like, again, it's a thing that everyone needs to be aware of. I want to say the Google Store does not get a lot of the same sort of spotlight
it's bad as well.
shown on it, but it is bad. As someone who has never had an iPhone, I mean, I use the App Store on my iPad, but like, oh, buddy, let me tell you about the Google Play Store.
The Google Play Store is a place where you can download emulators for various systems very easily, and that should say it all. Like you can play PlayStation 1 games on your Android phone very easily. Not even difficult to do. And that pretty much says it all.
I gotta sideload this thing and download an APK. No, my friend.
It's not like you have to go to a back alley. You just need to open the right door.
Yeah, that's
easy.
So,
and there you have it. Another episode of the Very Online Show. If you want to find us, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TamorH, just keeping an eye on people, you know? Just making sure no one's up to no good. And then exposing them if they are, especially if their name's Zach.
Yeah, watch out, Zach.
Lucy, where you at?
I'm on Twitter at Lucy James Games. Again, just feeding off the drama. Not being a part of it, but just feeding off it.
See the drama, don't be the drama.
Yes, and I'm at Jeff Baclar, and I'm at the party. I'm sitting on the couch. It looks like I'm taking a phone call, but no, I'm eavesdropping on your conversation.
There's that meme of that sitting on the couch guy that Jess hopefully can bring up. What's that meme called?
Yeah, what's that meme called?
Couch.
Because now we have
Couch
to do
guy.
An episode on this. Oh, I know Couch Guy.
No, not Couch Guy. It's like stick figures.
Oh, no. They're not sitting down. One of them's just standing in the corner.
Standing in the corner.
Standing in the corner.
Yeah, that's like the everyone's not into the thing I'm into thing, right? Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. This is Jeff.
That's me, but like
replace that.
I'm using a phone.
Yeah.
But it's not connected to anybody. It's actually off.
It's off. It's a flip phone.
It's a flip phone. Can't get caught if someone calls me.
Yeah.
See you next week, everyone.
We're going to the fucking moon. We're going to the fucking moon.
I'm about to show my whole ass.
What?
I gotta sideload this thing.
Bacala. Jeffels Bacala showed his whole ass.
You did?
Yeah.
Relatively simple by usual standards. It looks nice and it's got Apple's logo all over it. So it's basically a wholesome bottom.
Mwah.